pay for college without student loans and without any extra money out of your pocket, okay? Now, usually when I talk to parents from all over, and over the last almost 2 decades, usually find parents in one of 3 categories. Usually you'll find parents that say, you're gonna have to learn how to pay for it yourself. I ain't got it, figure it out. And then you have some other parents who's like, I've done everything for you, I have everything saved up, you're good to go, wherever you wanna go, let's go. And then there's this third category of parents, and they simply are like, forget them kids, right? Forget them. Get out of my house and do what you gotta do, right? So I'll let you decide which parent you are. And it's interesting, some parents start on one end and end up in the other by the time they go to school, right? And before we get into the strategies and figure out how we actually do this, I really want you to know that this is a real and possible thing, right? You have people like Robert Reed, who was just, he was coming out and he talked about his lifestyle, and then he was able to get scholarships just from him taking a stand and being a proponent of a certain group. And then you have Isabel. Isabel, she had some challenges with dyslexia, but then she actually got a scholarship for $25,000 without even writing an essay. Now, Taylor is one of my students that I personally work with, and she was under the notion that she didn't have one of those sob stories, so she didn't even need to apply for any scholarships because she didn't think she was gonna win. And I was like, Taylor, it's not about that. And then we need to figure out what it is about your story that's compelling enough to where people want to support you in what you want to do. And so she ended up applying for that similar scholarship, and then she did a 2-minute video and got a $10,000 scholarship. Not once, but twice. And then so after doing that, that kind of really cemented some of the framework and formula that you're gonna learn today to see that it's actually possible for someone to get scholarships by doing certain specific things. And then you got the top left. Oh, this is a rock star right here. This is Nia Grant. Nia Grant ended up getting over $1 million in scholarships. Actually, Nia's here today. So shout out to Nia. So, I just wanted to show you what the possibilities are. And actually, it wasn't just the scholarships, but she got so much money, she was able to actually pocket over $30,000 to do other things, as far as paying for further education and whatever else, because there's so much money out there. So before we get into the strategies, I want you to know that it's actually possible. Now, let me tell you a little bit about why I'm so passionate about what I do. Let me tell you a little bit about my story, just so you can have some background and some perspective of why I'm doing what I'm doing, right? And so I went to high school, graduated, and then I was off to college, and my dad was like, hey, go to school, get good grades, get a high-paying job, and that's the path towards success. And that was really what I was taught, and a lot of you were probably taught the same thing. This is the formula and the roadmap towards success. And so I ended up getting scholarships, and how you're supposed to work hard, play hard? I got to college and I played hard and played harder, right? So I ended up losing a lot of scholarships. I had to take out student loans. And then after, my mom said, well, you can't come back home, right? I was like, oh, okay. Well, let me try to change some things up. And I ended up getting a lot of A's and B's, ended up graduating with honors, but those student loans still stood there. So I ended up graduating, and in my 20s, I ended up getting this nice corporate job, and I was close to 6 figures in my 20s, and I was just loving my life and everything that was in there, but there were still some personal finance things that I just didn't quite understand. I just thought that if you got money, then you're good, but there are some foundational things that you need to have in place in order to be successful when it comes to finances. But anyway, I got the job, and I figured, oh, life couldn't be better. But then life ended up getting better. And then I had my firstborn son, Chris Jr., and that was the happiest day of my life. Like, emotions were all over the place. I'm like, I'm a father now. Am I going to be a great father? Like, what am I going to do? And then so I have this job. Now I got my son. And then my wife was on leave. She wasn't working at the time. And so my supervisor called me because I had to go to the apartment to get some clothes to bring back to the hospital. And she's like, Chris, I heard you had your boy. Congratulations. I am so happy for you. So now I'm really feeling good. And then the next sentence, what she said was, but unfortunately, we got to let you go. Right. Talk about gut punch. I followed the formula. I did what I was supposed to do. How could this happen to me? And I know many of you probably have some stories where you faced some unexpected challenges in life and you just had to deal with it. Remember I talked about how my personal finance stuff wasn't in order, so I was staying in an apartment complex at the time, and in that apartment complex, renter's insurance was optional. And I'm like, I ain't paying no $15 for no renter's insurance. I'm responsible. Who needs that, right? But then, unfortunately, the girl across the hall upstairs, she left the stove on, and then we lost everything in an apartment fire. So here I am with this newborn, no job. All of our savings and everything we had went toward baby stuff. So we didn't have anything. So this is maybe a couple months after I got laid off. So all of our money is depleted. And the Red Cross had to give us a $250 gift card so we could get clothes at Walmart. So here I am in my 20s, feeling good, close to six figures. I started, learning about real estate and all these other things, and I thought life was great. But then moments later, everything changed. And then so, one thing, it's like I didn't have anything, but one thing that still stuck with me, even through all of that, was those student loans that I had. Isn't that crazy? It's like you're at your lowest moment, and no matter what, there's some things you still can't shake. And so what I got on a journey and a passion to be able to go into higher ed and help those set up those foundational things that they need to know, even the parents and the students, and say, hey, we don't want to do student loans, and we want to set yourself up for a great and successful path when it comes to laying the foundation for personal finance. And so that's another one of the reasons why I go so hard for what I talk about. Say that you end up doing some of these strategies, and now you have more than enough in scholarships for your child, and all the money you had saved up at 529, like, what do we do with that? And some of you probably know that there are different ways that you can actually roll over per beneficiary, and definitely go into this. We're not going to go into this today, but there are different ways that you can actually roll over that money into different retirement accounts and different investments. So do your due diligence to check that out. All right, now let's talk about the whole student loan thing, right, and why we don't like them, right? Now, we have a national deficit. There's a $1.76 trillion in student loan debt, okay? And it's crazy because everybody thinks this is what you do. This is a norm. You're going to school. You just have to take out loans. And that's the priority number one, and the number one thing that many people just expect to do. It's just the thing you do, right? And then this dates back to, in the 70s where there were marketing on the government level. Like government was pushing out, hey, get these student loans out. There was this thing, matter of fact, there was this organization called the Student Loan Marketing Association. Many of you may have heard of it. But then later they became known, instead of Student Loan Marketing Association, they became known as SLMA. And then SLMA became known as Sallie Mae. And it's like, whoa, right? Like, what? So there are these different reasons why this is the norm and this is the way things are supposed to go, because people are pushing this agenda to where you go into massive amounts of debt in order to achieve levels of success. But we know here that there are other ways to achieve success. I did a study years ago, and it's unfortunate that people go to college, take out the loans to get the degree to then pay off the loan. But then there was a study they did years ago, and there was like 38% of people who take out loans don't end up getting the degree to actually get the money to pay off the loan, right? Now, this study, it was in a 6-year time span. So if they got it in 6, 7, 10, 20 years later, they weren't part of that study. So this is just within the 6-year time frame. Now, if you still have loans and you're trying to figure out how to, you definitely want to connect with Travis Hornsby. He's an economy speaker alum. Let's give it up for Travis. So he's definitely a whiz when it comes to learning different strategies and ways to where if you still have loans you're taking care of, you can get it gone, right? All right, so who wants to know the proper way to skip class, right? Now, this is where you can skip class and you can still get class credit. And there's these things called CLEP exams, so college level examination programs. Now, CLEP offers dozens of classes or test exams that you can take, and if you pass the class, or pass the exam rather, then you can actually exempt out of taking the class. So let's say your child is a whiz at math, and they don't need to go through a whole course because they just know it like the back of their hand, or English, or certain core subjects. They can actually sit for the CLEP exam, and there is a fee associated with it, but it's as low as $93. So instead of spending close to $1,500 per course, which is the average, you could take this exam, and then you can CLEP out of taking that course. So it's not necessarily free, but $93 compared to $1,500, right? We're winning. All right, so now what is a scholarship? It's a simple definition, money given to a student to help pay for and further education. So let's get to the money. All right, now Forbes did an article years ago, and there's $100 million of unclaimed scholarships each year. 100 million. This isn't scholarships that students are applying for and they're just not getting. These are scholarships that they're not even applying for. Let that sink for a little bit. And now we're not even talking about federal money. When you're talking about Pell Grant and all these other federal grants that are out there, then it goes over $1 billion. But just on the scholarships alone, each year, over $100 million. And this is years ago, so it's probably more than that now. So now, one of the challenges that students have is, look, I don't know where to find these scholarships. And number two, like when I find them, I don't know what to write about. Like, how am I even gonna give myself a winning chance? So how many of you wanna know about how we can take care of that? Yes? Okay, perfect. And also, like I said, speak with your counselor. Now, let's go to our dear friend Google. Let's start there. Look in your backyard, okay? One of the ways that you can increase the odds or likelihood that you'll be awarded scholarships is by making the pool or the competition a lot smaller. So if you're looking in your local community businesses, organizations, they have scholarships for your child. So just type in scholarships, your city and state, and you'll find a lot of scholarships that organizations and local businesses are offering to seniors or juniors or even younger. And then while we're talking about Google, some people think that there are only scholarships that are available certain times of year, but there are scholarships that are available year-round. So let's say your child's a biology major, they could type in biology scholarships October deadline, and then it's gonna pull up all the scholarships that are there for that month that they can apply for. And while we're on Google, there's a Google Doodle scholarship as young as 13 years old that students or young people can apply for, and you get up to $55,000 in scholarships just for drawing the Google Doodle, right? And so I want you to think about all the different possibilities that are out there. Now, what do scholarships cover? You have tuition only or tuition cap scholarships, where these are scholarships that will only adjust to the tuition, right? Many institutional scholarships, so whatever college you're going to or they're going to, they have scholarships that'll only shrink down to the amount of tuition. So let's say that you have a tuition-only scholarship, and they'll say, we'll give you $100,000, but it only costs you $45,000 for your tuition. That $100,000 is gonna shrink down to $40,000. Make sense? Or let's say if it's $5,000, that $55,000 will shrink down to $5,000. So it'll adjust based on the tuition. Or let's say if you have like a ROTC scholarship or an honors program scholarship, those scholarships usually adjust to the amount you need, nothing over. Now, there are other scholarships, private scholarships, that will just give you a flat amount, okay? Now, this is where the magic starts to happen, okay? There are other scholarships that you can get, and once all your tuition and fees and housing and your direct costs are taken care of, once these private scholarships start hitting your account, then they end up giving you a credit, or otherwise known as an overage or refund, that it'll go to your bank account and you can use it for the next year or further years, or post bachelor. Let's say you go your master's degree, PhD. You can have this money to use for any of your educational purposes, and it's going to go right to your bank account, so you could just use it for the next year. Okay, and then this is where this comes in. It's not like our organization is just going to say, hey, we got $25,000 for you. Oh, your tuition and fees are already covered, we're not gonna give you anything? No, they'll usually just give it to you, it'll go on your account, and then you'll be awarded a credit that way. It's not this way 100% of the time, but in a lot of instances there is, all right? And like I said, any of these educational expenses it can go towards, okay? Now, let's talk about scholarship misconceptions. Some people think that, oh, well, only people that don't have money can get scholarships. No, that's far from the truth. Now, there are need-based scholarships where if you are having challenges financially, there are scholarships that help those in that situation. But there are so many other types of scholarships available for all walks of life, all income levels, all types of backgrounds. And you have athletic-based scholarships. And then one thing we're going to focus on today is merit-based scholarships. And then so merit-based scholarships are given to students based entirely on excellence in a particular area. So academic gifts, if your child is gifted academically, if they have amazing test scores, just on that alone, regardless of income level, like I said, if they have extracurricular activities that they've been involved in, other exceptional factors. Let's find the scholarships. Let's look at the low-hanging fruit. Start with the institution that your child is going to. They have a page and a portal dedicated specifically for scholarships. So instead of going all around the mulberry bush, start with the institution that your child is going to. You can simply just go to their page, type in scholarships, and it'll show you all the different type of institutional scholarships that they offer, okay? Now have the scholarships find you. Many students are like, I don't know where to find the scholarships. Don't worry about that. Let's have the scholarships find you. You have so many different scholarship portals that have vetted scholarships on their portal that they can actually find the scholarships for you. So you're not wasting all of that time trying to find out where are the scholarships, because you'll take the time to fill out a long list of questions, which does take some time, but once that profile information is filled out, like, are you left-handed? Are you vegetarian? Do you have a specific faith? All of these things are gonna add up. Now they're gonna go out and search for every single scholarship that's out there for your child, okay? So make sure you do that. And then filter by deadline. Why is this important? Because you're gonna apply for everything. You're not gonna cherry pick and say, oh, I think I wanna apply for this one might be good. No, your child is going to apply for every single scholarship, okay? And now, why that's important, we'll talk about it later. This is Christopher Gray. He actually founded Scholly. Christopher Gray, when he was in high school, there were moments when he was homeless, and he said, the only way I can get out of this situation is if I go to college. So he used to spend hours on end in the library applying for scholarships on the library computer, or he had a phone where he would apply at nighttime on his phone, and he ended up getting $1.3 million in scholarships to go to any school he wanted to. He ended up going to Drexel, and because he was a student who cracked the code, yeah, let's give it up for Christopher Gray. And because he cracked the code on finding scholarships, then he ended up creating a software with a couple partners, went on Shark Tank, and then the rest is history. All right, scholarships without applying. Let's meet Abby. Abby was featured on CNN Business, and she won over $80,000 in scholarships without even applying for them. What? Yeah, she was just doing what she was already doing. As early as the 9th grade, you can get your child signed up with Raise Me, and just for getting certain grades in certain courses or club involvement or sports or volunteer activities, institutions from all over will commit micro scholarships to your child just for doing what they're already doing. So there's nothing extra. This is just stuff they're already doing, and they'll get scholarship commitments. Now, what we'll need to do is we need to figure out, okay, we found out how to get the scholarships and where to find them. Now let's figure out how we can actually put ourselves in a position to win the scholarships. Because many of the scholarships, truth be told, you have to write essays for. But you don't have to write all these hundreds or thousands of different type of essays. It usually just comes down to 5 different essays. And once you have these 5, it's just wash, rinse, and repeat, maybe tweak a few things, but it takes care of the brunt work. It takes grunt work. It takes care of so many things that students are like, I got class, I got to study, I got football, I got cheerleading, I got all these things. Like, I'm not going to have time to apply for scholarships. But once the scholarships find them and they know exactly what's going to be written. So your rags to riches, let's go into it. Rags to riches is what type of obstacle or challenge has your child faced in life, and how did they overcome it? I had this experience, but it didn't stop me. I went through this, but it didn't take me out. Scholarship donors and organizations want to know, what's the bounce back of your child? What's the resilient? How are they going to push through? So they have the confidence to know that if they give them a substantial amount of money, they're going to push through all the challenges and obstacles that they're going to face in college, and they're going to graduate. They don't want to, like, you don't want to stick on the rags part or the loom and gloom, because it's like, I don't think they're going to make it. You know, like, let's keep this money in our pocket, right? But you want to talk about the resilience and how you create the belief. One thing you need to understand is facts tell, stories sell. These are real people. When you can get that emotional connection, sometimes your child will remind them of their child or their personal experience. And they're like, that was me when I was younger. I believe in them, and I want to see them succeed. Impact and leadership, okay? What type of impact has your child made, or what type of impact will they make, and how are they a leader? What will they do with the money? If they know specifically, I'll have enough for my supplies. I'll have enough to be able to cover my housing now. I had enough for tuition and fees, but I didn't have enough for housing. Now I'll be able to do that. Why are they getting into the major in the first place? Ever since I was a little child, I always wanted to be a basket weaver. You know, so now I'm going to be the best basket weaver in the world, right? Who knows? Whatever you want to do. And then the wild card essay. This is usually a trending topic. So years ago, it was like, how has the pandemic shifted and altered how things are done in the world today or in your industry? Or now everybody's talking about artificial intelligence. How is that going to change how your industry is going to be from the future? And then these essays will build the framework for video submission scholarships. So real quick, I want to show you that these are no essay scholarships. We talked about Taco Bell. They offer 5 $25,000 scholarships every year. So your child could have the potential to get $100,000 with just talking about their passion. There's no income verification, there's no GPA requirement, and there's no essay. Like, hello, you know what I mean? Like, go ahead. The worst you can get is you don't get it. But you put yourself in a position, especially if your child is on fire about something or really making an impact. You're going to take the things that you got in the 5 essential essays and put it there. And then they offer 70 students $10,000 a year. And we talked about Taylor getting it every year. $10,000. Tuition, Dr. Pepper tuition giveaway, $100,000, and the Breakthrough Challenge is $250,000. And right now, before I close, I want to talk about this. This is something that you need to understand. Most of the scholarships, you'll get denied. Most of the scholarships you apply for, you will not get. So if we're not going to get most of the scholarships we apply for, then why are we even doing it, or how do we set ourselves up for a position for success? You apply for 10 times the amount you need, right? If your child needs $40,000 for the year, you know how much they need to be applying for? They need to be applying for $400,000 in scholarships. So in theory, if they get denied 90% of the time and they only have a 10% success rate, they're still putting themselves in good opportunity and a good position to get all the money they need. Make sense? Yes, so you need to apply for 10 times the amount, and you need to be applying for 2 a day. So let's say today is the first of the month, April 1st, which is my birthday. And let's say it's April 1st. And then by May 1st, June 1st, they would have applied for 120 scholarships without even thinking about it. Because they put the essays in the cloud. They put it in Google Drive. Their essays are already done. So all they're doing is like copy, paste, tweak it. And here's another secret. If you go to the organization or donor's website, most of the time they have their values and their mission on the site. So if their values are matching with your values or part of your story, now you're rising to the top because your story resonates with what they're trying to do. Make sense? Like, you don't want to, write an essay, it's a animal protection organization, and then you're talking about on the weekend you do certain things for leisure. You know what I'm saying? Like, read between the lines if you get it, right? You don't want to do that, but you want to be in line with what it is they're talking about. And then keep a reusable recommendation letter. So if it's a teacher, mentor, counselor, something that you can use over and over again for those. And lastly, I just want to say that these are life skills that your child is learning. It's more than just scholarships. They can use these same skills and same habits for persuasive writing, proposals, business grants. Community involvement is required for a lot of these scholarships. Leadership, financial literacy, what they're going to do with the money, and then resilience and grit. Listen, you all are part of the FIRE movement. Your children have had a front row seat to what's possible, right? The Donegan's just showed you all the different articles and things that people are saying what the FIRE movement is doing is not possible. But what you've done, you said, forget that. We're going to show you that it is possible, and we're going to show you that there are multiple ways and where you could get to this destination. So in the same way, through that consistency that we just heard about and that 80% mindset, that's going to transfer to your children, and they're the ones that are going to show what's possible. So let's give it up for the FIRE movement, and let's give it up for your kids.